So really massive warm welcome to everybody joining this, one of the first webinars I've run on this particular topic, so I'm really thrilled to have such an enthusiastic participation list. My name's Lloyd-Hughes. Many of you will know me from recent talks that I've been doing, or many of you will follow me on LinkedIn or have actively worked with me in the past. You're most welcome, every one of you. Just some orientation for today. Those of you who are live on the call have got the chat bar. We've got some polls coming up as we get through this webinar. And what I want you to know most of all is that this is designed to be an interactive webinar, not something that you sit and half listen to as you're munching on a sandwich, doing a piece of work, checking your emails, looking at the news as well. This is designed to be time for you. So please take this headspace and make the most of it. So that means switch off any distractions that you might have. And to keep you engaged, we're going to ask you to participate, certainly in your mind as you go along, and then also invite you to participate via the chat or via some other things that I'll ask you to do as we go along. So just to introduce myself for those of you who are relatively new to my work and to the work of Ginger Public Speaking, I'm an author and a public speaking coach. I've spoken at a TEDx event many years ago now, and really people describe me as a public speaking specialist, although then quickly afterwards they say, gosh, your work really isn't just about public speaking. It goes way beyond that to the questions of how do we lead and how do we affect positive change in the world. And as you'll hear about, I'm going to share some of my personal story around the direction that my business has taken now and why I'm so passionate about working with women. So in just 1 hour, we're only able to give sketch methods of what I'm up to in my work. But I really, really desperately want to serve and benefit as many female leaders as possible. And so this comes from generosity for me. This comes from a genuine set of insights that I've got around how we as women can be more visible, vocal, and how we can affect change in our careers, in our industries and beyond. And if there is something that I can give you at all, that it's in this webinar. I've really put a lot of thought into designing something that I think is really necessary for us as female leaders. So I hope you will get a lot from it. Then also by the end of the hour, I will have some options for those of you who are interested in taking this work further, because of course an hour is not nearly enough to go into the depths of everything that I'm going to cover. Okay, so let's right now get into the crux of vision, voice and visibility. Let's start right here. And whilst I'm going through this, I'd like you in the chat, if you will, to contribute what is your biggest challenge right now around vision, voice or visibility. So normally the way that visibility starts is this way around. First of all, we have hidden from visibility for most of our careers. We have hidden from the spotlight. We've asked other people to do things instead of us. Then suddenly there comes a moment in our careers where people are paying attention, or people are asking us to be visible, to do a talk, to lead a meeting, to lead an initiative, to represent your company to clients, to knowledge share, to take some kind of credit. And at that point, when the spotlight suddenly hits on us, we think, yikes, I need to have a voice. And those of us who, like me, are practiced at hiding, I was traditionally in my career practiced at hiding from the spotlight, will think, goodness me, I suddenly need to have a whole skill that I don't have, a skill that I feel isn't a strength of mine. And that is the act of using your voice. And then we might think sooner or later along the line, well, people are asking me for some kind of vision because I'm starting to get traction as a leader. I need to be able to explain things to people and draw them behind me in a way that is compelling. Now, this is the typical way round that we operate as leaders. It's the method of just waiting rather than actually getting yourself ready. And what I'm encouraging us to do as female leaders is to start with vision, to know what it is that we want, and from there to develop our voice, and from a position of having a strong voice and a strong vision, visibility comes really, really naturally. So that's the flow of today. We're going to look at each of these 3 V's in turn and hopefully give you some really useful tips around how to take charge of all elements of your profile and therefore your career, the movement that you'd like to start, the opportunities that you would like to attract. Let's just get a little look at the chat here. We've got a few challenges already popping up from participants. We've got Alison, who's working in a large organization of 250,000 plus people. So it's tricky. I guess it's tricky to get visibility within such a large organization. Punita, hi Punita, challenge around feeling confident that what I have to say is unique and worth being heard. Bethany left a large software company, left large software company land and joined a company with less than 700 people. Now she's very visible, and maybe that's a challenge in itself. And somebody whose name is a long splurge of numbers and letters says she feels like she has found her voice externally, but maybe not internally. So maybe that's a question of identifying what your own personal vision is. Even if you've got the profile and people are listening to you, do you have that sense of internal purpose that drives what you're talking about? Okay, please continue on the chat. I won't always be able to have a look at it, but have a conversation over there as well as I go through. I want to just give an example of why vision is really important. It's had a huge impact on my own business. I'll explain why in a minute, but vision classically is something that female leaders are really often criticized as lacking. One INSEAD study found that of their exec education students studying INSEAD, women were rated equal to or better than men in every single characteristic of a leader, with the exception of envisioning. And classically, and stereotype alert here, female leaders are fantastic doers. This is as a whole population. You might be a rubbish doer, but most female leaders seem to be fantastic doers and implementers. But what I hear all the time from my clients is that they struggle versus their male counterparts to signal what they're doing and why. And here we might look at poor old Theresa May, and it's really sad that we have to attach poor old before her name. But she was this archetypally good girl leader, getting on with the hard graft of trying to negotiate a Brexit deal, but utterly failing in, first of all, getting her network, Parliament, to buy into what she was doing. And secondly, failing completely to signal to the general public why that was a good idea. So that was a failure of vision, voice, and visibility. And otherwise put, the stuff that she cared about didn't get supported. So if you would like the stuff that you care about to get supported, this session is for you. And I would say that it's this connection between vision, voice, and visibility which is so critical to the clients that I work with. Okay, let me be vulnerable here and give you a little bit of my journey with Ginger. I've had an experience over the past 10 years of running Ginger, of starting off from a place of really lacking visibility, vision, and my own voice as a company. I didn't necessarily, by the time I started Ginger, feel nervous of speaking, but I certainly felt like this towards my entire business. A little over 3 years ago, 6 years into my business, I thought I had a successful business, but I was pregnant at that moment. I was super stressed out with a scattered group of clients who often couldn't pay enough for what we were doing. I had a great team, but I wasn't using them properly. I wasn't delegating to them properly. And the culture that we had built up around the team was in some ways a little bit hypocritical. There were elements of who I was as a person that were affecting my team performance in a very negative way. On top of that, I was quite disconnected from my client base. I was pursuing an online strategy because people were telling me to, but I wasn't really close to my client base. I wasn't really feeling like there was a sense of clarity or certainty around what I was doing, and that was definitely translating to my team, and it was translating to my client base. So if you've got an equivalent of this, then please share that in the chat. I didn't know it at the time, but my problem was with vision, or it started with vision, because instead of stopping and slowing down and asking myself, what do I really want, I was kind of charging through my work life, doing what other people told me I should be doing, which weren't things that were really working. Now, around about 3 years ago, so back pregnant with my first child, Leo, as I say, I was finding that it was almost a sort of crisis of people not being able to buy into or advocate for what I was doing, and realizing that any minute now I was going to go on maternity leave. And at that point, I couldn't be responsible for driving things. I had to drive things through other people. So I had to influence them to take on my message and to pass it on in order for my business to survive. At the same time, being about to go on maternity leave, I wanted to do less work and get paid more. Not a small list of demands here. And at the same time, I also thought, well, hey, whilst I'm writing my shopping list, I'd like to do more meaningful work as well, more work that benefits humanity in a wider sense. And actually, I managed it. I managed to treble my turnover in those 3 years, whilst having a baby, whilst taking maternity leave, and whilst then going back to a much reduced working week. And then this here is a picture that I think encapsulates my new version of Ginger. This is me with some new clients in New York. We started Ginger in the USA this year. And all of this has now become possible, I think, because of vision. So I hope that makes sense to you, that for me, all of my current success started with a clear sense of vision. Okay, thank you for the chat functions. Let's have a little look here. Anna resonates with the doer and failing at telling people, mainly because I feel like it's a waste of time. In the past, I've gotten on with it rather than talk about it, but it seems I need to talk more about it, which doesn't come naturally. I'm sure other people resonate with you, Anna, and I certainly do too. Please continue the conversation over there. I won't be able to get to everybody. So, vision then. Let's look into vision a little bit more, as it's so critical for helping us to overcome the tendency to overdo. This one's for you, Anna, I think, and for many others. My first little diagram for you. This is probably how, Anna, you and people like you are operating, and people like me as well, which is the tendency to be the manager, heads down, doing. Often in this role, other people are setting the agenda, are setting the goals, are setting the parameters for success, and we end up kind of chasing them. It's often, tell me if you resonate, ladies, characterized by niceness, characterized by a tendency towards heroism. So doing more, expecting less from others, don't worry, I'll get it done in the end, which actually I've found in my life can completely disempower team members. It can stop them from being competent. This manager space often, I think, feels overwhelming. It feels like you're being pulled in multiple different directions. It feels lacking in me time. It feels lacking in a sense of purpose and direction. And when I have been operating in this space historically, I found that my pay is lower, my satisfaction is lower, and my available free time is much lower. Mary Louise resonating, yes, I thought it might. So the alternative, and this is the space of the visionary, is to take all of those little arrows and point them in one direction. This is a concept and a diagram adapted from an incredible book, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. So the visionary has a really clear sense of direction, a sense of knowing where you're going, knowing what's important, and then acting on it. And if you think of some of the leaders that you know and engage with, often those leaders who seem to make things feel effortless and in flow are the ones who are really, really good at setting a direction and then sticking to it. So I think this visionary uses probably the same amount of energy, or possibly less, by just pointing all of the effort in one direction, in knowing what the bigger picture is, you then find it easier to say no to all the stuff that just honestly isn't a priority or isn't your priority. And it lends itself to delegation and spending more time in your zone of genius, the area where you are very, very best at, and less time in the things that you're not actually that competent at. This is the place where you can start drawing others along with you and get support for what you care about, rather than being always at the mercy of somebody else's agenda. Got a little poll for you. Let's see, which of these territories do you spend more time in? And you should, if you look on your screen, you should be able to vote now. Do you spend more time in the manager or the visionary space? I'm watching something like a horse race. We've got the manager well ahead, the visionary, a few visionaries coming up, but the managers are definitely winning as it stands here. We've got 64%, 65% in the manager bit, and actually quite a high amount in the visionary space, so good for you. Janet says, I spend more time in visionary, but people want me in manager. Yeah, and I wonder if there's a role to the word no for that, and or if there's a space for the manager taking the benefits of the visionary as well. So if we know where we're trying to get to, the daily tasks become easier, and we can remove some of the cluster of arrows that are pointing in the wrong direction. And of course, we're always going to have things that are distractions, but the more we're able to delegate, actually the bigger we can grow our teams and our movements and the activities that we're working on. Okay, thank you very much for engaging in that poll. I'm going to close that one now. So we're closing on 65% managers and 35% visionaries. Okay, I don't know if you can see that there. All right, so let's just have a look into vision, because I think this is an area that we often think we know what visionary means, but there's so much we can do to take this very, very simple concept, deepen it and make it work in every sphere of life, whether that is managing a team, whether that's designing a talk, which is what I spend a lot of time helping people with, around connecting the vision to the way that you speak, the way that you communicate. So I think vision is a very simple thing, and the way that I explain it is simply articulating what I want. So the 65% of you who said that you don't spend as much time in the visionary space, it could be that there are some lack of certainty in actually understanding what it is that you want. And even for those of you who spend a lot of time in the visionary space, the articulation of what you want, the getting really, really precise about what you want, can make a huge difference between having a vision that seems clear to you versus one that's really, really able to be amplified, passed on, and acted upon by other people. So here are some questions for you. Please write these down. What do you actually want? And these are simple questions, but the answer to these are incredibly deep. What do you want for your career, personally? One of the big mistakes that we make as women is waiting for other people to tell us what we might like to have. It's known as tiara syndrome, that we're waiting for Prince Charming to come along and say, whoa, wonderful, what a great job you've done, good girl, have a tiara. Well, most of us now know that Prince Charming isn't coming. We're not in a fairy tale. And if he's coming, he's probably in it for his own self-interest, and often he's going to steal the credit for your work rather than helping you and giving you a leg up. So we're actually encouraging each other here to be just a little bit more selfish, knowing that we are often our own worst advocates, and unless we are able to articulate what we want, nobody else will know. It's that classic thing, again, sorry ladies, stereotype coming our way. It's that classic thing of asking ourselves, why has my husband or my boyfriend or my partner not bought me flowers? It's our anniversary, and I deserve to be bought flowers. Well, did you ask him? Did you signal to him that that's what you wanted? And if not, I know it spoils the romance, but if you haven't articulated what it is that you want, it's less likely that you'll get it, put it that way. So what do you want for your career? What do you want for your home life? And what do you want for the wider world? And I'll come back to this because this is critical. And ideally, what we're looking for as visionaries is to have a sense of what we want to achieve at various different time frames into the future. So what do you want right now? What would you like 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now? What is the slightly bigger picture plan? And I think a really clever question to ask yourself is, what would you like 100 years from now? Way beyond how long I'm planning to live. I don't know about you. Maybe we've got some tech ladies who are planning to live 1,000 years. But if we're able to start to think beyond our lifetime, we start to look for legacy. And when you get that big picture in your mind, the smaller details of how to get there become less important. What becomes really, really important are the kind of big shades of the impact that you want to have on the world. So I would start, if you haven't got a good answer to each of these questions, I would really start to set some time aside to reflect, to discuss. And typically this is the kind of question that you'll have an answer to one of these elements. You'll know really, really clearly. And then you'll think, oh God, but it's really difficult. I know for myself that 100 years or 25 years from now is much easier than 5 years from now. And if I'm being very intentional, a day from now, a week from now, and a year from now can feel very attainable. But I've got a gap somewhere in the mid-range. So where might your gap be, and who can you use in your network? Hopefully people within this call and our Connected Game Changers network are people that you can use to have these conversations. Unless we start really intentionally taking responsibility for what we want, it's very difficult for us to get it. So one of the best ways I've found to think about the future is, if it's awkward to do this on your own behalf, if you have uncertainty, if like me you procrastinate around deciding things like this, my tendency is to advise people to think of others, like who would you like to act in service of? And here, again, the question comes of the bigger you go, the more people you might think of benefiting. And the more people are wrapped up in your vision for the future, the more your comparative fears about expressing your vision or about having a voice will seem insignificant in comparison to the benefit you could bring by getting it out there into the world. You might be able to excuse yourself from acting on your own behalf. I can do without the pay rise, or I don't really need to win that award or that opportunity, or I don't really need to take responsibility. You know, it's only me that's being let down. But most of us find it really difficult to let other people down. So that's part of what makes women great champions about others, and we can use that to help us to set a really clear direction for our future. And possibly that means collaborating with other people to keep us accountable, and collaborating with other people to make what we care about turn into action. For me, this was the crucial difference with Ginger, focusing on serving others. When I realized that my current business model was serving all sorts of different people, but not doing it very well, I went back to the question, well, who do I really want to help, and where can I most effectively leverage change? And I realized there that there was a group of women, a very particular group of women, like many of you on the call, that I was really inspired to work with. I want to work with female change makers. I want to work with women who have the network and the confidence levels and the support to make genuine change happen in their industries and ultimately in the world. So I want people to I was fed up really of people sort of half using my work and not changing themselves or others as a result of it. When I think of acting on behalf of female leaders, on behalf of the positive change that they can create in the world, I feel braver, and I feel braver about using my voice and about having an impact in the world. So anytime I feel lazy, I remind myself of who it is that I'm serving in order to get my butt in gear. Let's then give you a little tool. And here it is an activity that I'd like you to think of. You need a piece of paper and you need to draw a line down the middle. And on one side of the paper, I want you to think and write all the things that you want. And that could be now, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years into the future. What do you want? I use this little device when I go into meetings, when I run a training, when I have a important talk to give, in order to help me to spot the vision for that little thing. And I also do this a lot for myself when I'm projecting forward in time and thinking about what do I want Ginger's next year to be like, or what do I wish for this project in general. So on the one side, what do you want? And I'd like you to start answering this question in the webinar chat. What is something that you know right now that you want? Go as big as you can, or if you just know and have just realized right now that you want to get a pay rise and you didn't realize that before, or that you want to shift careers, whatever it is that you're realizing as we investigate your vision, I'd love you to share, because as soon as you share, it starts to happen. Tony would like higher profile speaking work. Anna would like a pay rise and a bonus. I like the and. Alison would like health, happiness, balance, creativity, growth, development. Hanya would like to become a CEO. Fantastic. So there is a dotted line down the middle, and of course there's something on the other side here, which is what, critically, what will you say no to in order to make the thing over here on the left happen? So again, over to you ladies on the chat. What are you going to clear out? What are you going to say no to in order to make the thing that you care about happen? For me, my example here would be I want to say yes to working only with leaders who are ready and idealistic and able to affect positive change. I want to stop doing little bits of work, and I want to start doing major projects with people like that. And in order for me to make that happen, I need to start saying no to more work for leaders who are not ready to affect change, or who aren't in a position to actively leverage change. Okay, loads of chat conversation coming on here. So, right, Freya wants to be a female CEO, champion of diversity, inclusion, etc. Wants to scrap traditional patriarchal structures and create a vibrant, innovative culture. Fantastic. And I think then, what do we need to relinquish to make that happen? Sometimes we have to then be able to say, actually, what I'm letting go of is the need to be liked, and my vision is more important than people saying, hey, good job. That I know that there's going to be some years within which people may or may not get what I have to say. Maybe that's one thought. Bethany has said on her no list is things that don't serve me in reaching my goal. Brilliant, but you need to get more detailed about what those things are. And when we start to spot them, we can get really kind of honest, and you can become your own best coach by saying, okay, I've spotted my tendency. I don't know, for me it's to zip onto the news websites in the morning, and I can find 20-30 minutes gulped up in conversation about the elections. Oh God. So if I'm able to catch that and say, look, I'd like to have that 20 to 30 minutes back to dream about my future, maybe that's making me some more space. LHR Brown, whoever that is, has said she's going to say no to long meetings. I like that. Anna is saying no to spending a lot of time with people who make a lot of positive noise but don't make a decision. Yes. Hanya saying no to becoming stagnant in a position, reminding myself of my ultimate goal every single day, keeping pushing. Yeah. And Catherine saying no to anyone who wants us to white label instead of recognizing my business as an equal partner. Great, good that you know that now. It's a clear no. Yeah, okay. Ojanika saying no to sloppiness and social media distraction. Yes, I think it's an enormous pull on our time. this little thing called a mobile phone can waste hours and hours and hours of our life. And look, if you have a vision, whether that's for your work life, your family life, the wider world, if you have a vision, if you stated that out loud, that becomes way more important than anything else, which is a demand on your time. Okay, so please get more comments coming, but I'm going to just move on now to the subject of voice. Now, the reason I put it all this way round is because once we have clarity about our vision, it becomes much easier to vocalize, to put our words behind what we want. Vision directly informs then the content of what you should be saying on a daily basis to different people. Now here, what I mean by voice is your ability to speak and advocate for the things you believe in. So Ginger is a public speaking training company, but our work is everything to do with the voice, the spoken word, whether that is meeting room situations, whether that's having a difficult conversation with your nemesis, whether that is standing up and speaking on a massive stage. If you know what it is that you want, then you are really turbocharging and giving yourself the maximum benefit in putting your voice across. Because if you look at most talks and most communications, the thought that's gone into the content is often really high, but the way in which that content has been edited so that people can understand is often really low. If you start first with vision and you know clearly what the typically one idea is that you want to share in your interaction, you are way more likely to make that happen. So focus is the key here. But I just want to understand a little bit more from you by way of voice and confidence, because let's switch into more looking at when you express your voice, what comes up for you. So let's just turn to the polls again here. And, technical issue. I'm just trying to find my button. Okay, second poll then is, what is your current confidence levels in speaking? How confident do you feel in using your voice? So at the top of the list, you're super confident in all speaking situations, lucky you. You might be mostly confident but challenged by certain situations. Some of you will be mixed confidence. Sometimes you feel great, sometimes terrible. Others might be generally low confidence, and some of you might want to vomit, run a mile, jump in front of a bus and so on whenever speaking is on the cards. Interestingly, nobody has put the top or the bottom ones so far. Oh, one person is at the bottom. Oh, I love you. So we've got a pretty much two-horse race here. We've got mixed confidence and mostly confident, but challenged by certain situations. I'm going to close the poll now and share the results with you. So that's good to know, and that's typical of this kind of group of female leaders, that mostly you are in some degree of experience of speaking. You might have gotten through the horror of any kind of visibility, apart from that person who wants to jump in front of a bus instead of speaking. Please don't. But there's a mixed experience really here that says there is more that can be done. And again, if we know our vision, then we can have more of those opportunities to speak up with confidence, knowing that we're doing this in service of others. Catherine, hang on. Catherine, I changed the button, but I'm increasingly pushing myself into it, so hopefully you're going to break through to a better position. Big respect to you and others like you who find visibility and public speaking terrifying, but will do it anyway. And probably some of you in the higher up gradings do feel like you've pushed yourself into it and have benefited from doing it. So well done to you all. I want to share with you really some of the top secrets that I have as a public speaking coach of thousands over the past decade. And this is really, I suppose, three key insights that have helped me to particularly with women, get into the mindset of confidence and presence and the willingness to be visible, rather than focusing on technique, rather than focusing on absolute rules of public speaking. We have a different approach. So this is what has led most of our clients to say, well, thank you so much for gingerizing me. You've changed my life. Typically, first I'll just talk about the typical approach to speaker training and to voice training. Typically, the old school approach is focusing on a set of rules, a set of strategies for speakers, a set of surface level behaviors that some kind of self-proclaimed speaking guru has identified make the difference. I trained in that way originally when I first became a speaker and a trainer, and it actually made me feel more nervous and more self-conscious rather than more natural, and certainly I didn't feel inspiring when I was focusing on all the things I should and shouldn't be doing as a speaker. Those trainers also gave the impression that there was something like a professionalized right way to speak or to influence or to communicate or to lead, and that person would have a certain set of characteristics that matched each other. Now, when I wrote my book, How to Be Brilliant at Public Speaking, 7 or 8 years ago now, I watched hundreds of speakers and I tried to see if there were certain things that they all did that made them good. And I couldn't find, of course there's certain things that they don't do, like they avoid some basics of human conduct, let's say. But it wasn't that they all had the same personality type. It wasn't that they all behaved in the same way. It wasn't that they all had the same format or structure of talks, because of course we become very sensitive to a structure that is too rigorous and too much repeated. So what did they do instead? Well, I spotted really that they did three things very well. One is that these are the people who have the habit of speaking now before they're ready. So this counteracts that tendency that many of us have towards perfectionism. And let me have a shout out on the chat for any perfectionists in the room, that the kind of people that think, well, I will speak when I've got all my research in place, when I have the absolute knowledge that I'm not going to make a fool of myself, when I have all of my PowerPoint slides ready, when I have every single question that could come up covered in my mind. I'm getting a lot of guilties on the line there, and double Anna and another Hanya as well. Yeah, there's various people who are saying that they are totally guilty of that. Head girl syndrome, Janet says. So this is an awful, awful way to learn anything. I know, because I tried to learn French by being a perfectionist. I lived in Paris for 8 months, and I can now speak about 2 very perfect sounding sentences in French, but I can't reply to any response from a French person. What I always say to my speaking clients is that if we're being perfectionists, we are avoiding or missing out on the precise thing that makes speaking compelling. If we wanted somebody to do it perfectly, we would either watch a video or we'd get a robot to do the speaking. What we actually care about is somebody being human being in front of us, and we would rather have that person speak up in a way that was passionate and natural and human. That builds trust, rather than completely over manicured and over perfectionist. So your challenge, those of you who resonate with this, is to speak before you're ready. Yeah, it might be that you don't throw all your eggs into the basket of the biggest, most important opportunity, but we need to make sure that we're practicing and stepping out of the comfort zone well before it becomes urgent. So leap over your crocodiles sooner rather than later, ladies. The second thing that I've found that really, 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 really works, particularly for female leaders, is the feeding of your strengths rather than your doubts. And this is another big difference between those speakers and leaders who allow themselves to thrive versus those who get crushed by feedback or criticism. So tell me if you resonate with this, please. If you get feedback and 95% of it is positive, do you focus on the 95% positive or the 5% negative? My argument and the way that we approach training our female leaders is that the positive is as important as the negative, if not even more important. If we're going to criticize ourselves so much, we actually squash and dampen our natural characteristics. So feed your strengths rather than your doubt. This is an approach to personal development called strength-orientated feedback and a strength-orientated approach to growth. That you don't need to mitigate for all your weaknesses in order to be an effective communicator or an inspiring speaker. But what you do need to do is be really comfortable in yourself. So the feeding of your strengths is like growing your roots deep down into the earth, so that when you've got difficult things happening, when there's a storm blowing on the surface, you can still be yourself and you're not going to take it entirely personally. The final thing in this section then is connecting to who you're serving. And this is the fire that lights up any leader who I've seen battle through and communicate and inspire and pull others along towards their visions, that they're focusing on who they're serving. And then, all right, I might have to speak in front of a news camera. All right, I have to speak in front of thousands of people. All right, I have to influence the board about my vision. But I'm going to do it anyway, even if it is scary, because nothing can daunt me. I know what I'm doing this for. That's back to vision. Okay. So this is a question for you to answer in the chat, but I'm going to move on in the interest of time fairly quickly. Informed by your vision, let's take charge of your voices. Where do you need to speak up, and who do you need to say, what do you need to say and to whom? Write this question down and think about it afterwards. I'll take a little screenshot right now. We must activate our voice. We must act in order for things to change. So those of you who are wanting to influence within your companies or beyond, where do you need to speak up? What do you need to say and to whom? That's your little piece of homework for each one of you. So then let's zoom in the direction of visibility. And by now, once you've worked on your vision, once you've worked on your voice, visibility kind of naturally will come to you. That if you have said out loud enough, you would like some speaking opportunities, even if it scares the bejesus out of you, those speaking opportunities will come, or you'll make them. You'll find yourself standing up like lovely Renee here in front of rooms of people making a point. You'll find yourself putting your hand up to ask a question. You'll find yourself inserting your ideas quite naturally into whatever format is available. But what is it that helps us most to access our visibility? I've got two pieces of input for you here. First of all is identifying your sweet spot of your visibility. What are you going to be known for? When I work with people on their vision and then on disseminating that vision and getting it out there into the world, I look at three key areas that we're looking for your visibility to sit within. First of all, what is your fame? What do people know you for? What is your current expertise and profile? Secondly, what is your passion? What do you care about? What can you do that fills you up with energy and that you can complete with a sense of ease or a sense of flow? And then finally, what do other people demand from you? So here you've basically got a sweet spot within which your visibility will flourish. If you can find a topic or an angle to your work that combines your personal fame, your passion, and solves something for somebody else that is useful to somebody else, this is where you start to have a really, really powerful speaking career, just career in general. This is the territory of a great book. It's the territory of a fantastic TED Talk and many other things. So identify, if you will, your sweet spot, and really think there about then, once you have found what it is that you want to be visible about, it's time to take charge of your visibility. Now, I've had the fortune to work with some incredible women over the past few years, and I've collected their insights. So some of their insights around visibility are here for you. Let me just get, oh, okay, I can't see my words. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for the others watching, women tell me, which I think is a brilliant piece of advice. This one I love. This is from a very senior executive at Unilever. Her phrase is, say yes like a man. Whatever opportunities you're offered, say yes to them. If you don't signal your value, I can't spot it. I know this for myself. If my team don't tell me the benefits of their work, if they don't tell me what they've done that's great, then I can't see it always. So it's in service to me for them to boast to me. And I guess it's the same for you to whoever you're reporting to as well. This is something guys do really well, signal their value, but normally women don't do very well at all. Prince Charming isn't coming, and if he is, probably nick off with your credit. This is one of my favourite. We don't need to be waiting for somebody else to lift us up. Sure, we can do it for each other, but if in doubt, do it for yourself. If you haven't been told no, you haven't asked enough. This is one that I'm currently working on myself, that I, as a bit of a perfectionist myself, I don't like to put myself in situations where it's risky. None of us do. But I'm just encouraging myself through this little phrase right now. If I haven't been told no, I haven't asked enough. And nobody asked you to be perfect. In fact, that's not what we want. So these are some wise words from your peers. And I'm going to also add into the mix here a mini list of some things that you can do practically, some practical things to take charge of your own visibility. So look at your LinkedIn profile. Does it actually reflect the vision that you've started to identify, or does it just have a whole load of waffle? Do you even have a LinkedIn profile, and how compelling does that come across when someone looks at it? I challenge you to, on your LinkedIn profile or somewhere else, record a video. We can all do it now. Don't pretend you can't. We can all, in 2 minutes, communicate a lot to people about what we care about, what we want, what we need help with, or what our vision is. So often I challenge my ladies to put together what I call a perfectly imperfect video, a one-take, 1-minute expression of your vision. Share it. And if you do that, share it with me and I'll amplify it for you. I'll post it out on my network as well. Write an article. If you don't want to be visible just yet, then get your thoughts down in an article. Ask for opportunities, and please use this network of female leaders. We'll invite you all to our LinkedIn group if you're not on it yet. If you want opportunities, then we need to know that you want them. You need to ask for them. And then finally, look for allies. We don't need to do this all by ourselves. We can help each other. We can, often we share the same aspirations and the same vision for ourselves. So any other tips for visibility, please put them on the chat as well. But these are some of the really kind of essential things that I think we can all start to do on a daily basis to step forward in our visibility. Oh, I hope these are useful. So I'm going to just run through the summary, and then we're going to get to giving you some next steps just now, and share with you a few things that you can do with Ginger in the future if you're drawn to. Hanya's got an example: go to speak at schools and inspire the young, and that's a fantastic. I'll just go back actually. That's a fantastic idea if you're if you're wanting to practice and also to raise those energy levels. Kids are wonderful audiences to speak to, challenging audiences sometimes, but often that is a really, really brilliant way to give back. And let's be fair, they need the attention. And then we've also got a tip from Sarah: don't be afraid to reach out to someone you admire. Don't have fear of visibility. See for Brucey. Yes, ask for help. Get in front of people whenever you have the chance. Yes, I love this encouragement from each other. Thank you very much. Okay, so your to-do list. Here's a summary of what I'm asking you to do as a result of today's time together. Please do this, because you remember I said I'm inspired by women who actually take the things I say and use them. I want you to benefit from this time together, and I want you to activate your vision, your voice, and your visibility in whatever way is relevant to you right now. So your to-do list, please, ladies, is the following. Get clear or get clearer. What is it that you want? And start saying no to what gets in the way. So what's that one thing you're going to say no to clear out some time? And it might be saying no to something that you know isn't your priority, so that you can sit down and work on your own vision. Voice. Spot where it is that you need to speak up, and do it. Speak now before you're ready. Jump in. If you need a kick in the bum, let me know, and I'll make sure that you do it. And visibility. Try to spot where that sweet spot for you is, and do one thing that will help you to build your profile. I'm convinced that together we have everything that we need as a group, as a network, as a set of incredible female leaders. And if there's something that you struggle with, if there's something that you need from us, let us know, please, because in that way we can all start acting, and we can all start raising our profiles and supporting each other's as well. So take a screenshot of that if you need it. You will get the recording as well afterwards. But I just now have some next steps for you with Ginger. And this is for those of you who think, right, I'm inspired by what you're saying, Sarah, I like your style, and potentially I'm interested in taking some kind of next step. I welcome any questions and any conversations about what we do as an organization, but I'm just going to give you 4 different routes depending on where you're at with your vision, voice, and visibility. So let's have a little look here. Vision. For those of you who are really serious over the next year about finding your vision, about finding what you really care about, and who are ready to act on it, I have an incredible 1-month vision hunt process. I know Taya, who's on the line, has recently completed it. And this is really a process of, I say, luxuriating in answering the question, what do I want? If you know that you're not going to do this on your own, and if you'd like me and a few other senior women to help you and to work alongside you to identify your vision, then let me know. And we can talk about the next dates that are coming up in January. For those of you who perhaps have a lower budget or want to specifically work on your voice, we have a fantastic 1-day foundations course that runs every month, apart from December, in London. And that's just £265 for the early bird price. And there we look into your voice, your body language, and we give you a whole load of practice and feedback about what is your impact when you stand up to speak. So for those of you who are wanting to really develop confidence in your voice, whether you're very experienced or whether you're right at the beginning of your speaking journey, I really recommend that day. It's a very, very high value, intense but brilliant day. Taya, thank you, says the Vision Hunt is such a unique opportunity, and she says to do it. Good that you say that, Taya. It's a pleasure doing it with you. And incidentally, from the Vision Hunt comes a magnetic one-liner, and Taya's is brilliant. Taya's Vision Hunt output was the question, what if every patient was treated by someone who was having a nice day? And I thought, go Taya, that was a brilliant and interesting and compelling draw into her vision. So if you're interested in that, please speak to Taya. because she's on a bit of a mission to humanize the way that the medical profession work. Back to the third opportunity then, visibility. So what comes after the vision hunt process is an epic 8-month journey called the Leader's Voice. This is just for 8 female leaders every year. Right now we have an enrollment process that's just about to start for the next cohort. We have this time next week a webinar that's giving more information on the Leader's Voice journey. And what I'd say is the approach that we take in the Leader's Voice is to scare the crap out of you so that there's nothing that you can't do in the future. We put you through conversations with your nemesis. We set you up on panel discussions. We take you to Speaker's Corner, and we showcase you at the House of Commons in our Game Changers Summit. It is the way to amplify your vision. So the Leader's Voice is specifically for women who know what their vision is and who are ready to get it out there and to activate it. So if that's you in 2020, then you should let us know and we will tell you some more information about it. How do we apply, Mary Louise? We will send you some information, and anybody else who would like more information about each of these options, just let us know or drop in a 1, 2, 3, or 4 into the chat box. Then the final thing is, any of these we can do at your company, or we can do something bespoke. And I would love more championing from my female leaders to come into your companies, whether that's doing work with women, or we also cater for guys. We also do work across the whole spectrum. So if you resonate with what we do, if you resonate with the styles in which we do it, please champion us into your company, and please let us know if you need any more information. So as some of you are already starting to do, you can write in the chat box a number, and Katie will be gathering each of your details and sending you on the relevant information. Also, we will send out all of this information to anybody who's either listening again live or hasn't made it all the way to the end today. Katie's also put in a way of registering for the Leader's Voice information session Friday, 6th of December, 12 until 1. There's a link there, but we will share that again after the session. Thank you so much for listening to all of this. I have found you incredible and inspiring to have on the webinar. It's wonderful just even to get your energy through the chat box. It's not often that you can say that you get such a kind of energetic boost from seeing women support each other only by text. But I know that the more we're able to do to support each other, the better. So we're going to follow up with you to invite you to join the Game Changers group. You've got my information here. If you need anything from me, then let me know. And I think, if anything, what I want you to do is to speak now before you're ready and champion other women to do so too. So thanks very much for sharing your lunchtime with me, and we're going to sign off just now. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you all.